LineChart is the most popular chart type in the FL chart. So in this video, I'm going to go through all the properties that you have in the LineChart and I will talk about the details. Stay with me. Hi there, this is Imaneo. Welcome to my channel. First of all, if you don't know what FL chart is, you can watch the video above. I have an overview video about it, and basically it is a library that is free and open source for the Flutter. So you can add it to your project and then you will have access to 5 different of chart types. Let me open the GitHub page. Yes, here you see that we support LineChart, we support BarChart, PieChart, ScatterChart and RadarChart. So currently we support these 5 types of charts and in the future we will add more. And today I will start with the LineChart. I'm going to talk about the details of it, and if you click on the read more, you will see that we have a lot of properties here. I'm going to explain them. But before that, I want to introduce you the examples app that we have. You can open the landing page. It is flchart.dev. I will put the link into the description. So there is a button here. It says give it a try, or here we have examples app. So both of them opens the same page. It is app.flchart.dev. So this is an example app that I developed to demonstrate the different types of FL chart. Here you see that we have LineChart, BarChart, PieChart. You can take a look at them, and yeah, we have some interactions. For example, here you see that if you move your mouse, you see some indicators, and here you can toggle these indicators off and on, and here we have a live sample. And yeah, so let's jump into the details. At first I'm going to open a new project. Okay, I called it FL chart demo. So here it is a basic Flutter app. I'm going to remove everything and I'm going to remove these comments. We don't want them. And yeah, so basically we have a stateless of home page, which is this one. And now I'm going to add the FL chart. So you can write Flutter pub add FL chart, and it installs the latest or the newest version of FL chart. As you see in the pubspec.yaml, you see that we have FL chart 0.67.0. This is the last version of the FL chart at the moment. If you want to make sure, you can open the FL charts GitHub. You see that here in the releases, this is the last one, 0.67.0. Or also you can open the pubdev, looking for the FL chart, and yeah, you see that this is the last version. So okay, let me run it in my macOS. Okay, I'm going to put it here, and yeah, okay, as you see we have an empty page here, so I'm going to replace it with a scaffold because we need to have access to the theme here. And let me disable the copilot. Okay, so in the body I'm going to say that we need to have a center, child is aspect ratio, and it is with aspect ratio of 2, for example. And as a child we will have a container with color of green for now. Okay, so the next step, I'm going to replace this container with a chart. And yeah, let's add some padding here. 16 is good, I think. Yeah, so if you open the FL chart documentation, you see that it says you need to have LineChart widget, and inside that you have to provide the LineChart data. So Basically, LineChart data is the root data type of LineChart that you need to provide, and it contains all the information that you need to draw in the LineChart. So if you want to know what kind of properties does it have, you can take a look at this table. So we have all of these properties inside the LineChart data. And also we have two other properties that they are optional, so you don't need to take care of them at the moment. This is for the animation. You know, when you change the LineChart data, it animates to the new state of the chart. So these variables are for the animation. And okay, let's implement it here. Okay, instead of container, I will have a LineChart, and inside that I provide a LineChart data with nothing. If you run, you can see that we have a basic chart. It doesn't show anything. It just draws the border and some titles here. And here we have lineBarsData, which is a list of LineChartBarData to show charts line. So they stack and can be drawn on top of each other. It means that, for example, here we have 3 different lines. So to implement this, we need to add 3 different LineChartBarData into the lineBarsData property. So this is going to be a list lineBarsData. Yeah, this is a list, and you can add different kind of lines into your LineChart. Let's add one LineChartBarData. Yes. And okay, now let's open the LineChartBarData to see what does it have. It is here. LineChartBarData contains a property called show, so you can decide to show or hide the line. It accepts spots, so spots are the actual data that you are gonna provide to show your line. And we have color, gradient, bar width, and other things. So I'm going to go through all of them. Let's add a BarChart data and let's provide some spots as the data. Here I'm going to say spots. Okay, so spots accepts a list of, let me open it. It is a list of FL spots. So what FL spot is, by the way, you can read the documentation in the source code. It is the same as what we have here. So I'm going to read the FL spot. It represents a conceptual position in the Cartesian axis-based space. So it accepts X and Y, which determines the position of your point into the line chart. So let's create some of them. I start with 0 and 0. It can be constant. I continue with 1 and 1, 2 and 1, 3 and 4, 4 and 5, for example, 5 and maybe 2, and yeah, so let's see what happens if we hot reload. Yeah, as you can see, we have a line which is blue by default, so this is the default color of a line, and we have a basic interaction in the line chart. So at first, let's go through the properties of the LineChartBarData, then we will continue in the LineChart data. We have a show property here. So if you want to hide it, you can set show equals false. So if you hot reload, you see that it disappears. But let me set it to true. The next property is the spots that we used it here. It is a list of data that we are gonna show. The other one is color, so you can change the color. We can say colors.red, and as you see, it changes to the red color. Okay, and the next one is gradient. So in the gradient, you can provide a linear gradient, a radial gradient, or any type of gradient that we have in the Flutter. As you see, it is a gradient color that we already have in the Dart UI. It is not something that we customize in the FL chart. We use the same API. So for example, you can have linear gradient and you can see the definition. You can see the video here. and we use the same concept here. So let's add a gradient into our app. Gradient. We can say we want to have a linear gradient with the colors of red, purple, and maybe blue. And it can be a constant. Yeah. And if we hot reload, you see that we change the color, but the point is that gradient overrides the color. So you cannot provide both of them because always gradient has priority to the color. So let's remove the color. And yeah, as you see, we have the gradient from left to the right. By the way, you can change the gradient direction. For example, you can change the begin. As you see, begin starts from the center left and ends to the center right. So you can change it. For example, I can say begin is alignment dot bottom center, end is alignment dot top center. So if I hot reload, you see that it starts from bottom to top. And yeah, you can change the direction. Also, you can change the stops or other things. So I'm not going to talk about the linear gradient because we have a lot of information here. You can watch a video. And yeah, the next one is bar width. So I think it is clear with the bar width. You can change the width of your line. It is 10, you can change it to 8 or maybe 4. As you see, we have an animation when we change the property. So if we change it to 40, you see that it animates. If you change it to 4 with the hot reload, it animates to the 4. Yeah, as you remember, we had two properties here, swap animation duration and swap animation curve. This is for the animation that I showed you. And yeah, so the next property is curved. So with the isCurved property, you can have a curved line chart. As you see, before that we had a hard edged line chart, but if you set it to true, you see that we have a curved line chart. So based on your design, you can decide whether you set the isCurved to true or false. The next one is curveSmoothness and preventCurveOvershooting. This is a value that you don't need to change it most of the times, but this is a property that you can tune for the curveSmoothness. For example, default is 0.35, and if you change it to 2, you see that smoothness decreases. So you have something like hard edge line, but not 100% hard edge. It has a little bit smoothness. And if you change it to 5, you see that it doesn't feel good. It's 35 is the golden value that I found for this use case, so it works well. The other property is prevent overshooting. So what does it do? Sometimes you have some variables like, let me add it in the 4. Suppose that we have let's add it like 0, and let's move it to 8 maybe, and also this one to 8. Oh, I cannot reproduce it. There's an issue. Yeah, as you see here, we have something bad happens because it goes down and it goes up. So if we set prevent curve overshooting to true, it fixes the issue. So sometimes you have this issue and you can set this property to true to fix the issue. As you see here, it works like this, and if you set to true, this fixes the issue that it overshoots under the chart. Or maybe you can see different bugs in curve things, you can try this flag. And the other one is the threshold for the overshooting, so you can change it to see what value is the best for your use case. And the other one is ScatterChart. So let me remove this one and this one, and I mean I'm okay with this overshoot because of my design. And yeah, let's increase the smoothness to something like 20, and as you see we have hard edges in the beginning and in the end of the line chart. And if we set it to true, you see that now we have round cap in the line beginning and in the line endings. And the next one is a stroke join round. So what does it do? First of all, let me set isCurved to false. As you see, we have curve cap for the line, it's here and here, but for the joins it is not curved, it is hard edge curve. So you can set it to true, and it allows you to have curved corners on the joins. Yeah, this might be enough for your design, or maybe you need to set isCurved to true. So this way, isStroke join round doesn't do anything. You can remove this. And the next one is BelowBarData. So I can show you what does it do. BelowBarData is a bar area data class that contains these properties. So you can read the documentation here, or you can take a look at the markdown file. So here we have bar area data. Yes, you see the table, you see the properties, and yeah, let's get back to the BelowBarData. After that we have aboveBarData. Both of them are bar area data. So I'm going to show you what does it do. Bar area data. And the first property is show. I set it to true, and if you save, you see that we have something below of our line chart. So it fills the area below of your line chart. The other one fills the area above the chart. So we can say above our chart data is the same, but we can change the color green, for example, with opacity of 30%. Yeah, as you see, we have a green line above the chart, and we can have a red one below the chart. So yeah, and when you change the values here, you see that, for example, if we change this one to 6, you see that here is red, here is green. And you can take a look at the samples. Yeah, for example, here we have a BelowBarData which doesn't have a solid color, it has a gradient color. Or maybe here you can see we have aboveBarData, which is this color, something like blue. I'm not good at naming colors. And here we have pink color. And yeah, so you can do anything that you want with these two beautiful properties. And let me decrease this one because it hurts my eyes. Yeah, and the other property is .data. So again, .data is another class, fl.data. And let me set it to true. Basically, it manages these dots that you see here. The points of our data is represented by these dots. Here we have a callback check to show dot. And by the way, we can open the class here to read the properties. You see that we have the check to show dot callback. It checks to show or hide an individual dot. So if you open it, it is a function. It gives you a FL spot and also the LineChartBarData. And in the return, you need to provide a boolean which determines showing or hiding the dot. So the default behavior is showing all of them. As you see, we have show all data, which has the spot and bar data, and always it returns true. So we use it as the default value for this one, and now we can overwrite it. So what does it say? Okay, it is not constant anymore. Yeah, as you see, it is true for always. Let me decrease this value to see these dots. Yeah, in the spot we have access to X property, and maybe we can say if X mod 2 is equals 0, it means show the even numbers, and as you see, we don't see the values here. Or maybe you can say show only if spot.x is 0. So it only shows the first one, second one, third one. As you see, you can manage to show or hide the dots into your chart. Okay, and the next property is get.painter. So I really like this callback because it lets you to draw anything that you want in the dots point. So for example, you can provide, oh, we need a comma here. You can provide a fl.painter, and fl.painter is an abstract class, and already we implemented fl.square_pointer, which draws a square. The second one is fl.crossPainter, which draws a cross on the points. And the other one is fl.circlePainter, which draws a circle. And the painter that is used by default is the circle painter. For example, we can change it to the fl.crossPainter. And what does it provide? It provides these properties, and we need to return what was that? fl.crossPainter. And yes, as you see here, we have the cross. Let me increase the size. Does it accept size? Yes, it has width and size. Let's provide 12, 40. Yeah, as you see, we have cross points here. We can remove this logic to always true. As you see, we have cross painters here, and also we have color. I mean, you can customize it. For example, I can say I have a list of colors.red, colors.blue, colors.green, and here I can say choose from index mode of 3. Yeah, so as you see, you can have different colors for the spots. It is fully customizable. You can do anything you want, or you can implement your own painter. So here, as you see, it is an abstract class, and you can extend it. You can create your own class, and you need to implement the draw function, get size, and main color, and also lerp and heat test. So if you want to know how can you implement your own painter, you can take a look at the, for example, circle painter. You see that in the draw, we have a draw circle, and if we have a stroke, we have another draw circle to draw a circle around the inner one. And here we have get size, here we have main color, here we have lerp. And yeah, you can take a look at these examples to see how can you implement your own. And also we can check the FL square painter. Yeah, as you see, now we have squares. Let's change it to 20. Okay, the next property is this one, showing indicators. So it accepts a list of index, and for example, here you can say oh, we need to put it here, I think. Yeah, it allows you to show some line indicators on your line chart. So for example, you can say I want to show an indicator on the first index. It is here. But the point is that if you do a hot reload, it doesn't work. We need to add this to the documentation, but it is because that in the line chart, we have a default interaction that handles showing and hiding these indicators. So in this case, this doesn't work. The solution is to disable the default behavior of touch system. So in the LineChart data, we have lineTouchData, and temporary we can disable it. What we can use, we have enabled, so we can disable it for now, and as you see, it works. It shows the indicator on the first index all the time. You can add multiple, for example 3, 2 and 4, and yeah, or maybe you can remove the 3 and 2. We only show it on the first and the fourth one, which is not visible because it is here. Maybe we can try 5. Yeah, as you see, it is simple. It handles the showing indicators in the chart. And okay, let's remove it and this one. Okay, and the next property is dash array. So this property allows you to implement a dash style in your line. So I'm going to add it here, and it accepts a list of numbers. By the way, before that, let me remove these dots. I'm going to set it to false here, and let me increase the width of our bar. It can be 4. Yeah. And now you can provide a list of numbers here, for example 1 and 8, and it says that, for example, 1 and 18. It's a convention to have dashed line. It is a list of numbers, and the first one determines how much do you want to draw, and the second one determines how much do you want to not draw, or how much do you want to have a space from the next line. So for example, we can say we want to draw 4 and we want to have a space as 18, or we want to draw 18 and a space as 4. As you see, it works like this. And also you can provide more numbers. It works. For example, yeah, you can say draw 18, wait 8, again draw 100, and it loops through these numbers to draw the dashed line. So yeah, I'm gonna remove this, and the next property is the shadow. I think it is obvious. You can have the shadow property. What does it accept? It accepts a shadow which is from the Flutter. So it came from the painting API. So you can have a shadow. For example, you can say colors dot black of 54, and you can have blur radius of 4, for example. And if you hot reload, you see that we have shadow under the line. You can change the color, for example, to red or to yellow. Yeah, so it is usable for when you want to have some neon style in your chart or glow effect. You can use this property. The next one is StepLineChart. So this is a property that if you set it to true, you see that the whole concept changes. So we have a StepLineChart, and here in the middle we have the points. We have something like a stepped line chart here, and also there is another property, LineChartStepData, and here you can provide some information to customize the behavior of your step in your line chart. So it has only one property, which is a step direction. So it is half by default. I will show you the documentation. 0 means the forward, half means the middle and 1 means the forward. So I'm going to explain you. This is the point that contacts with the step. It is in the middle, as you see. But if you change it to, for example, 0, as you see, it contacts with the 0 point of the step. Or if you change it to 1, it is like this. It contacts to the last point of the step. Yeah, or maybe you can have something like 20%. As you see, it contacts with the 20% point of the step. And also in the examples, we have it here. As you see here, we have steps. Okay, and what is the next property? Yeah, we are done with the LineChartBarData. You can have multiple of LineChartBarData here. As you see here, we have a list of them. So I'm going to duplicate another one, but I'm going to change the values. Or at first, let me remove the BelowBarData and aboveBarData. And here I'm going to remove the dot painter because we don't show it. And I'm going to set isCurved to true and isStepLineChart is false. Okay, now as you see, we have an ugly line on top of our StepLineChart. And yeah, for example, you can change the numbers here. As you see, we can increase this one and we can increase this one. Yeah, as you see, you can stack multiple LineChartBarData on top of each other. There's no limit here. And yeah, let's continue to the LineChartData. We have a property called betweenBarData. So it is something like BelowBarData or aboveBarData. Now we have something called betweenBarData. So you can define it here in the LineChartData, and inside that you can provide a list of betweenBarData. So here you can provide from index is 0, for example, to index is 1. This is the index of lines that you want to draw something between them. For example, here we say that, okay, we want to draw something between the lines at the 0 index to the line at the first index. So it means this one and this one. And if we had another one, it could be 2 or something like that. And color is something like colors.black with 12% opacity. And if we hot reload, you see that we have something here. Let me increase the opacity here. Yeah, as you see, we can draw something between those two lines, in the area between those two lines. So here, for example, we have black color. And you can have multiple of them. So you can control in between of which lines do you want to draw with these properties. So from index and to index. Okay, and the next property is titlesData. Basically, it configs the titles that you see around the chart. And let me find it here. Yeah, we have some classes in the BaseChart.md that these are shared between all the charts. So here we have FLTitlesData. It has show, left titles, top titles, right titles, and so on. So let me create an object here. And the first property is show. For example, we can set it to false. As you see, we don't have any titles anymore. So it removes all the titles. But let's set it to true to have the titles. And we have 4 properties here: left titles, top titles, right titles, and bottom titles. So let's start with the right titles. It is here. And in the axis titles, we have axis name widget, name size, site titles, draw below everything. So I'm going to explain these properties. The first one is axis name widget. So if you put something like text ASDF, you see that we have something here. It shows the axis name, and we have site titles. We need to set it to true to have the titles back. And yeah, so in the site titles, you know, axis titles is handling the whole concept of site titles. Inside that you have axis name widget, which is this one. And before that, let me add some padding around it. Yeah, this is the title of this axis. And you have axis name size, which is the space for the widget. For example, you can say 40, it increases 80. You know, we need to have this size to render the chart. It is hard to wait until the text is rendered and render the chart. Maybe in the future we will fix this issue. We can call it issue, but for now you have to provide the size that you need for your widget. For example, for now we say 30 is enough. And the point is that in the axis name widget you can put any kind of widget that you want. For example, you can have icons dot this one maybe. Yeah, as you see, it accepts a widget. You can have a button, you can have anything that you want here. And in the site titles, this is these numbers that you see here. The first property is show titles, that we set it to true. The other one is get titles widget. So this is an interesting callback where you can provide exactly titles that are rendered here. So the default get titles is this function. It provides you a double value and title meta, and you have to return something like site title widget, and remove this constant and add this constant here. Yeah, so this is the default behavior of titles, but you can return your own widget. As you see here, we accept a widget, and for example, you can return a text, directly a text with meta.formatted value, and you can change the style. For example, you can say text style color is colors.red. So this way you see that you have red titles here, but you need to add some padding because it is near the chart. For example, you can wrap it with the padding only left. Yeah, as you see, you can do any type of customization with this widget. You can put icons, you can put anything that you want, or you can use this site title widget that we provided by the FLChart. You can use it, or also you can use your own customized widget. There is no restriction here. Yeah, for example, in the examples, if you take a look, you can see that we have icons here. These are titles that we returned icon based on each value. And in the bar chart, I remember, yeah, here we have also icons with the same color that we have in the bars. And when you interact, it rotates because it is Flutter widgets. You can do anything that you want. You can rotate them. You can add any kind of animations that you want because these are widgets, just like other widgets that you have in the Flutter. Yeah, we have left titles, top titles, right titles, and all of them follows the same rules here. You can define your customized titles, and in the title meta, you can have access to some metadata that we have. For example, what is the mean value for the axis, what is the max value, and also other things. So you can read the documentation. I'm not going to deep dive into these properties because you can learn them. These are simple. And the other property is extraLinesData. So extraLinesData are some lines that you have on top of everything as extra lines. For example, here we have a line, a dashed line, as you see, or here we have two dashed lines here. Yeah, let's add one of them. we have extraLinesData, and we have horizontal lines. We have a list of horizontal lines and vertical lines and extra lines on top. So it determines to show it on top of everything or on behind of everything. So for example, in the horizontal lines, I can add a horizontal line, and it accepts a Y because we need to show it horizontally. So you need to provide the Y. For example, we can say 4, and as you see, we have a line here in the Y equals 4. And yeah, you can customize this line. It accepts color, it accepts gradient, stroke width, and a lot of properties. So again, I'm not going to talk about the details of this one. You can learn about it. The other property that is very important is lineTouchData. So I'm going to explain it. LineTouchData is something that you can control the touch behavior. So as you see, by default, when you hover your mouse, you see that we have some interactions and everything is inside this one. So first of all, we have enabled, you can enable or disable the touch behavior. And the other one is handle built-in touch. So this property determines to implement some default built-in behaviors or not. For example, if you want to implement your own touch behavior, you can disable this, or if you want to have the default behaviors, you can enable it. For example, in the example app, you see that here we have custom interaction. So if you take a look at the source code of this sample, you see that we disabled the built-in touch, and also we implemented our own behavior. So yeah, if you want to implement your own behavior, please disable this built-in touch. And we have a touch callback. It gives you the callback to do anything that you want with the touch behaviors. For example, it returns a touch event and a response. So touch event is something like FL pan start, FL pan down, FL pan end, FL long press end, tap down, pointer exit event, tap up event. So you can check if the event is one of them, so you can implement your own logic. For example, if we implement it, we can say touch callback, and in the callback we have event and result. So I'm going to print the event and the result. And I'm going to disable the behavior. Okay, as you see, when I move my mouse here, you see that here we have FL pointer hover event. And when my mouse or my pointer exited, it says FL pointer exit event. And in the result, we have an instance of line touch response. So it is this one. Oh, I think we need to cast it. Result as line touch response. And here we have some information about the line spots that are touched. So for example, here it says which line bar spots are touched, and yeah, for the touch behavior customization, I'm going to record a different video because I cannot explain all of that here. It takes a lot of time, but it is enough that you know that in the touch callback, you will have access to the type of event, type of the touch behavior, and also the points that are touched in the chart. Yeah, other properties are, for example, long press duration, mouse cursor resolver. So with this callback, you can return some mouse cursor to show. For example, in the examples, as you see, let me find it. Oh, it's in ScatterChart. As you see, when I hover my mouse inside the touchable point inside the FL chart, it shows the pointer cursor here. So you can define this behavior for the line chart. I'm not sure if we have this or not. No, in the examples we don't have this cursor, but yeah, you can override this callback to return some cursors based on the touchable points. And here we have touch tooltip data. Let me enable it back and remove this. Yeah, as you see, we have a tooltip here on the top. You can change the design of this tooltip using this property. It doesn't accept a widget at the moment. You can provide some text and this kind of things to make it customizable, but in the future we might be able to allow you to provide a widget here, but at the moment it is not possible to have widget here. And we have touch indicators style. This is the line that we show. You can change the style using this one. Touch spot threshold, it says 10. It means that in 10 points of your spot, touch can be applied. For example, you can change it to 30. Oh, touch spot threshold. If you set, for example, 30, you see that from here you can touch the point. It defines the threshold that touch can be applied. The next one is distance calculator. You can change the logic of finding points to touch, and this is the one that I already talked about, handle built-in touch. And these two get touch line start and end, determines the point that the line starts and ends. For example, it starts from what is the default value? It starts from the minus infinity and it ends at the touched point dot y. So if you set it to, what was the name, end, if you change the end to something like we have these two properties in the callback, and we can return infinity. And as you see, it starts from the bottom of the chart and it ends to the top of the chart instead of going to the Y point. So you can customize it. And yeah, by the way, I'm going to record another video to talk about the details of touch behavior, and maybe we can implement some customized touch behaviors. And now let's get back to the documentation. Yeah, the next one is a range annotation. So range annotation is something that we have here. As you see, we have a blue range here. We have a green range here, as you see. So you can define it using this property, range annotations. The other one is showing tooltip indicators. It accepts a list of showing tooltip indicators, which allows you to show tooltips on top of each point permanently. So at the moment it shows when you hover your mouse or interaction happens, but with this property you can make them stable. For example, in the examples, yes, here for example we use that property to show the tooltips on top of the selected points. Or yeah, in the bar chart, yeah, for example here we have tooltips with transparent background. We always show them. And the next property is grid data. So with the grid data you can manage the grid lines behind the chart. For example, as you see here we have FL grid data, and if I set it to show false, you see that we don't have grid lines on the behind. If you set it to true, you have the grid lines. Or you can customize other properties. For example, show horizontal lines, show vertical lines. For example, we can say draw horizontal lines. We can make it false. As you see, we only have vertical lines. We disable the horizontal line. And you can define the color of grid lines or other things. The next one is border data. So for the border data, we have FL border data. Again, here you have the show property. You can make it false. As you see, we removed the border around the chart. Sometimes you need to remove it. And also we have a border property. Let me explain it. It is a border that is provided by the Flutter team. You can use just like a container border that you have in the decoration. You have a border here. For example, you can say border dot all colors dot red, and yeah, or colors dot blue. And you can define the stroke width, I think, width. You see that it works. Or maybe you can say border, which you provide only border dot left, border side, colors of blue, width of 4. And you see that we only have the left border, or maybe you want to have left and bottom. Yeah, so this is the border. And the next property is minX and maxX. And also we have min_y and max_y. And yeah, also we have baseline X and baseline Y. I explained all of them together. Okay, let's add a minX and maxX. Basically, it determines how much space do we have in our chart. So it is in the topest level of the definition. So you can say, for example, we have 0 to 20. And if you run it, you can see that a line goes until the 6th point. As you see, we have 6 here. If we add, for example, 20, you see that it goes to the 20 point. And yeah, if you not provide these two properties, FLChart finds the minimum and maximum points of the chart, and it's okay. And also we have min_y and max_y, so it works like the same. If we provide max_y to 10, you see that for example, we can say -20 to +20, or -10 to +10, -5 maybe. Yeah, as you see, you can define the range that your chart supports. So it adds a little bit of space around the chart. For example, here we modified the min_y and max_y, but about the x-axis we didn't do anything because it starts from here and ends to here. And also we have a property called baseline x. The default is 0, and baseline y default is 0. It determines where the chart starts, so you can change it to another value. For example, in the examples, as you see here, chart starts from this point, but you can change the baseline to something else. For example, here we change the baseline to -1. It has some visual effects, for example here, and yeah, for example here it starts from -6 and -3. Most of the time you don't need to touch anything, but if you want to customize the chart, you can customize these variables. And the other one is clip data. So using clip data, let me explain what is happening. Suppose that we have 40 here. As you see, it goes over the chart. So the chart box is here, but because you increase the bar width, it needs to be curved. It is out of the charts box. And if you provide the clip data, sorry, we want to add it here, .all, you see that it clips everything inside the chart. So based on your design, sometimes you need to clip everything to not allow them to draw outside of the charts area. And the other property is background color. So it is simple, it is the background color of the chart. For example, colors black. As you see, we have black background behind everything. And yeah, okay, so we covered the LineChart data, we covered LineChart bar data, between the bar data, bar area data, bar area spots line, yeah, FL dot data, LineTouchData, LineTouch tooltip data. Yeah, as I said, it is for the tooltip that we show here. You can customize it. It is simple. You can change the border, you can change the radius, you can add some padding, margin, and you can customize the tooltip items that is showing here. You can change the tooltip color, and in the tooltip item you have text, text style, text align, text direction, and other things. In the touch spot indicator you have it is here, the line that we show here. You can customize the line that you are showing, you can make it dashed line, you can change the color, you can change the stroke width. We have the spots data, which has the FL data to show the indicators here, and we have line bar spots, we have touch line bar spot, line touch response that is used for the touch behaviors, and showing tooltip indicators. And here we have some GIF animations from the LineChart. You can take a look, and also here we have an example that we already have it in the examples app. And yeah, I think that's enough for this video. For the touch behaviors, I promise that we will have a video to talk about the details, and maybe we can implement some custom behaviors of the touch or interaction. And in the next video we are going to talk about the other types of charts. For example, the next one will be bar chart. Yeah, stay tuned, and don't forget to subscribe the channel. Don't forget to like the video if you want. It supports me. Or also, if you want to support me, you can take a look at the donations here. You can buy me a coffee, you can donate Bitcoin, you can become a GitHub sponsors. This is the most important one for me because I can count on it. It is a monthly donation to me. And thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day. Stay tuned for the next video. Bye.